There is a moment when the universe seems almost cruel. It isolates you. It silences what once comforted you. It removes every illusion of control until you can no longer pretend you understand what is happening. You look around and everyone else seems to be moving forward, falling in love, building lives, belonging somewhere, and you remain suspended between worlds, waiting for something that refuses to arrive. It feels unfair. But what if this cruelty is the very proof of your importance? The universe does not test the average, it initiates the rare. What feels like punishment is often the first whisper of purpose. You were never meant to experience ordinary love. Jung wrote that the soul has a secret instinct for wholeness, and that instinct will destroy anything smaller than truth. That destruction is what you call loneliness. It's what tears apart the patterns that once felt safe. The universe is not punishing you. It is preparing you for recognition. Before it sends another soul to meet you, it must ensure you can meet yourself. Every unanswered prayer, every closed door, every silence is part of that refinement. So if you find yourself here aching, misunderstood, wondering why love passes you by, you are not behind schedule. You are precisely on time. Because before the universe can unite two rare souls, it must teach each of them the same lesson: how to stand in truth, even when truth costs everything. This is the beginning of that lesson, and what follows will show you why delay is not denial, but design. Most people mistake waiting for punishment, but waiting is the furnace where the universe tempers souls that are too honest to live half-truths. You are not being kept apart from love because you are unworthy. You are being stretched until you can contain a greater form of it. Every delay serves a purpose that the impatient heart cannot see. Jung understood this process as the tension of opposites, the psychic pressure that forces growth when easy answers collapse. The ego screams for resolution, the soul demands evolution, and between those two voices, you learn endurance. Rare souls sense this intuitively. They cannot fake connection, cannot feed on fragments, cannot rest in something that does not mirror their depth. So the universe must slow them down, because true union requires precision. It is not the merging of two incomplete halves, but the meeting of two whole frequencies tuned to the same truth. Imagine love as light passing through a prism. If the glass is clouded by illusion, the light scatters. The waiting clears the glass. Each disappointment, each quiet season, each heartbreak wipes away one more layer of distortion. So when you ask, why not yet? The answer is never because you don't deserve it. It is because you are still being refined enough to recognize it. You cannot receive what you do not yet know how to hold. The universe works with unbearable precision. It will not risk delivering what you might still destroy. When the delay feels cruel, remember, it is alignment, not absence. You are not being kept from love. You are being prepared to meet it without trembling. And once this truth settles, another realization emerges quietly beneath the surface. That solitude was never the punishment at all. It was the first initiation. It begins with silence, not the peaceful kind you choose, but the heavy quiet that chooses you. Conversations fade, connections dissolve. You wake one day and realize that the people who once understood you now speak a language you no longer recognize. This is not rejection, it is extraction. The universe is pulling you out of imitation so you can discover what is truly yours. At first, it feels unbearable. You scroll through images of other people's warmth and wonder what flaw makes you invisible. But invisibility is the sacred cloak of transformation. In this darkness, the false self cannot survive. Every role you played to belong begins to crumble. Jung called it separation from the collective unconscious, the painful birth of individuality. Here, you start to discern the difference between desire and conditioning, between what you truly want and what you were taught to want. You see how much of your longing was never yours to begin with. The universe enforces this solitude with surgical precision. It isolates not to punish, but to refine perception. When every echo of external validation fades, the only voice left is your own. Can you bear to hear it? Most cannot. They rush to fill the silence with noise, to patch the void with anyone who will stay long enough to mute the ache. But rare souls are not allowed that luxury. They must learn to sit inside the emptiness until it becomes holy, because solitude is not absence, it is filtration. It separates what is compatible from what is convenient. It trains your intuition to recognize resonance when it finally appears. In time, you stop fearing your aloneness. You start to sense that something is building in the quiet. Not punishment, not pause, preparation. And just when the silence begins to feel sacred, someone arrives to disturb it. They appear like destiny, the eyes that finally seem to see you, the voice that feels like an answer to every unanswered prayer. After so much silence, the sound of recognition feels divine. They speak your language. They mirror your wounds. They finish your sentences before you know how to form them. And for a fleeting moment, you believe, this must be the one the universe promised. But the universe is precise, and it rarely delivers salvation disguised as perfection. What you meet now is not your counterpart. It is your reflection. Jung called this the activation of the anima or animus, the inner image of idealized love projected outward. You aren't falling in love with them. You're falling into awareness of yourself. Every quality that dazzles you is a fragment of your own unconscious returning home. This connection burns bright because it is unfinished business. It feels fated because it is familiar. You are not meeting a soulmate. You are meeting the echo of every unmet need, every fantasy that protected you from despair. The universe allows this encounter as a test of discernment. Can you tell the difference between being seen and being idealized? Between love that nourishes and attention that soothes? Between truth and projection? The mirror. Lover will love the parts of you that fit their own mythology. Your tenderness, your depth, your mystery. But when you show them the rest, the chaos, the power, the contradiction, they will retreat. Because they never saw you. They saw their reflection in your eyes. If you chase them, you will lose yourself again. If you worship them, you will repeat the pattern of illusion. But if you pause and look closer, you'll notice something subtle. It isn't love that's dissolving, it's projection that's dying. And when the image finally shatters, when you can stand in the shards without bleeding, the universe whispers its next lesson. Before you can be loved fully, you must stop confusing intensity with intimacy. How do you know if it's love or projection dressed as destiny? The difference is subtle but life-changing. Projection feels electric. It rushes through your veins like prophecy. You can't eat, can't rest, can't think. It pulls you upward, but never grounds you. You mistake adrenaline for alignment. Presence feels different. It doesn't chase, it invites. It doesn't demand you abandon yourself to be chosen. It allows you to keep your shape, your rhythm, your silence. Projection asks, what do they think of me? Presence asks, who am I when I'm with them? Projection is noisy. Presence is steady. Jung said we meet ourselves again and again under the disguise of others. Until we learn to see, every attraction becomes a mirror, reflecting an unseen wound. That's why the same story repeats with different faces. Not because you're cursed, but because your consciousness is still rehearsing the lesson. The mirror lover ends not when they leave, but when you stop searching for yourself in someone else's gaze. Then, for the first time, you begin to see with clarity. The chaos settles. The ache transforms into discernment. You start to notice new markers of connection. Calm replaces urgency. Curiosity replaces obsession. You stop analyzing every text, every silence, every gesture. Because presence doesn't perform, it exists. This stage is subtle, but sacred. It teaches you that love isn't measured by volume, but by depth. That someone's ability to meet you quietly is worth more than any grand declaration. But even as this wisdom settles, a new tension begins to form within. Now that you can see clearly, another challenge approaches. One that doesn't come from others at all. It comes from you. Just when the path seems clear, something inside you resists. A quiet panic rises where peace should be. You start finding flaws in what feels right, questioning motives that are pure, doubting goodness that has no hidden agenda. This is not intuition, it's defense. After so much disappointment, your psyche has built walls so tall they look like wisdom. You tell yourself you're being careful, but often you're being protective. The mind that once begged for love now guards the door against it. Jung warned that the shadow never disappears. It evolves. When light enters, the shadow changes shape. And so the same part of you that once craved connection now fears it, whispering, "Don't believe this, it's too easy, too calm, too good." You mistake safety for boredom. You crave chaos because chaos feels like home. The old pattern hums beneath your skin. If love doesn't hurt, it must not be real. So you test the new presence. You pull away to see if they'll chase. You create distance just to prove that they'll return. You manufacture storms to feel alive again. The universe doesn't interfere. It lets you watch yourself destroy what you prayed for until the truth becomes undeniable. You were never fighting others. You were fighting your own capacity to receive. This initiation is merciless in its honesty. It forces you to confront how much comfort you've found in suffering, how noble solitude became your shield, how the identity of being misunderstood began to feel safer than being truly known. To pass this test, you must stop guarding the door and start opening it, slowly, imperfectly, honestly. Letting love in is not weakness. It is the most radical act of trust a wounded soul can perform. And when you finally stop defending yourself from what you desire, the universe moves again, rearranging everything around you for the next transformation, the recalibration of your entire frequency. After you lower your defenses, the universe begins to rearrange your life. Not gently, precisely. People drift away. Conversations that once thrilled you start to feel empty. Places that once felt like home become heavy with static. This is the recalibration, the moment when your energy stops resonating with what once sustained your illusion. And though it feels like loss, it is actually alignment. Jung called this individuation, the process of becoming what you truly are instead of what the world asked you to be. It sounds poetic, but living it is brutal. Because authenticity always demands subtraction before addition. You begin to outgrow the roles that earned you belonging. The rescuer, the caretaker, the one who settles for less just to prove loyalty. They all start falling away. And what remains is frighteningly simple. You. At first, you'll mistake this detachment for numbness, but look closer, it's clarity. The emotional noise that once kept you spinning has gone silent, leaving only what's essential. And that silence is the sound of your new frequency forming. This is when the universe watches closely. Will you cling to what's fading, or will you trust the invisible pull toward what feels lighter, truer, unknown? Most resist. They rebuild the old life under new disguises. They call it stability, but rare souls surrender to the collapse. They let everything false fall. They understand that the only real security is alignment. This recalibration doesn't happen in one moment. It happens in waves. Each choice becomes a tuning fork. Every act of honesty, every boundary honored, every silence chosen over noise, it all fine-tunes your signal. And once your field is clear, once the frequency stabilizes, the universe prepares its final lesson. The paradox that to receive love, you must first stop reaching for it. After the noise fades and the frequency stabilizes, the final paradox arrives. The universe asks you to release the very thing you've been longing for. You've searched, prayed, healed, prepared. And just when you feel ready to receive, the message comes. Stop seeking. It feels cruel at first, like being told to stop breathing after learning to swim. But this is the last refinement, the surrender of attachment to the outcome. Love cannot enter a clenched hand. It requires space. And space only opens when desire softens into trust. Jung said individuation leads to wholeness, a state where the other is no longer a missing piece, but a mirror of completion. That is what surrender really means. Not resignation, but return. Not giving up, but giving back everything that was never yours to control. When you stop scanning every horizon for a sign, life itself begins to speak differently. You start to feel loved without evidence. You wake up in peace, not because someone is beside you, but because you finally are. You stop chasing meaning and begin to radiate it. This shift changes the geometry of your energy. You move from magnetizing through need to magnetizing through essence. The universe recognizes that vibration immediately. It knows the difference between "find me" and "I am here." From that point on, everything unfolds with quiet precision. People appear not as possibilities to be tested, but as reflections to be witnessed. You no longer audition for love. You invite it through being. This is the paradox of surrender. When you no longer need love to complete you, you become impossible to overlook. The universe cannot resist a soul that radiates contentment. It rushes to meet it. And in that serene certainty, without striving, without control, you begin to sense it. Something or someone is already moving toward you. It doesn't happen with lightning, it happens with stillness. You don't fall, you remember. The moment their eyes meet yours, something ancient inside you exhales. There's no rush to prove, no need to chase. The air between you carries a strange calm, as if every unanswered question finally has somewhere to rest. This is not the chemistry of chaos, it's the resonance of truth. What once felt like intensity now feels like peace. You are not trembling, you are returning. The right person does not ignite your wounds, they honor them. They don't rescue you from loneliness, they meet you inside it. They see your depth without drowning in it. They love you not for your potential, but for your presence. Jung described this as the meeting of two individuated souls, beings who have walked through their own shadows and emerged whole. Such love doesn't complete you, it expands you. It doesn't consume, it collaborates. It allows room for solitude within union. Silence becomes intimacy. Freedom becomes devotion. You stop performing because nothing needs to be earned. You speak and you are heard. You rest and you are still held. Even disagreement feels safe, because connection no longer depends on perfection. It depends on truth. The universe that once seemed cruel now reveals its elegance. Every delay was architecture. Every heartbreak was calibration. Every silence was guidance disguised as absence. You realize it now. The love you were waiting for was never lost. It was waiting for you to arrive. And when it finally does, there are no fireworks, just recognition, just peace, just two souls remembering what the universe always knew. You were never meant to find each other. You were meant to remember each other. Look back now, from this quieter place. Every detour, every silence, every heartbreak that once felt merciless was choreography. The cruelty was never cruelty. It was calibration. The universe was not withholding love. It was teaching you to hold yourself, not keeping you apart from someone else, but keeping you intact long enough to meet them without losing who you are. This is the secret most never learn. The universe does not send love as reward, it sends it as reflection. What meets you now is not luck, but likeness. You have become the person you once begged to find, and that is why the right soul can finally recognize you, because recognition requires resemblance. Peace recognizes peace. Wholeness recognizes wholeness. Jung once said that what you resist persists until you make it conscious. You resisted loneliness until you learned its purpose. You resisted endings until you saw they were beginnings in disguise. And now everything that once hurt becomes holy in hindsight. So when you think back on the cruel kindness of the universe, you will see that it was never delaying you. It was delivering you, one revelation at a time, to the person you were always becoming. This is not the end of your story. It's the start of a new rhythm, a love that doesn't need to prove, a peace that doesn't need to perform, a truth that doesn't need to shout to be believed. Take a breath and feel where you are now. You've crossed every initiation. You've faced every mirror, every silence, every test. You've earned the stillness that follows awakening. And if these words found you at the right moment, perhaps that is the universe speaking again, reminding you that timing is never late, only precise. If this journey resonated with your own, share your reflections below. Someone else may need your light. And if you wish to keep walking deeper into these hidden layers of love, psyche, and consciousness, subscribe and meet us again in the next revelation of Alchemia of Mind.